All right, let's go ahead and get started here. So we have unwrapped the sheath here. So now what's left over to do is basically just organize this in the 0 to 1 space. Excuse me. I think we did miss a few pieces on the back side here. So I want to go ahead and address those real quick. So let's just go ahead and isolate these individual pieces here. Throw an unwrap modifier on it. And let's select all these faces. Let's also jump into isolation mode here. And we'll just do a flat mapping on this. Okay. And let's jump off. Let's turn off wireframe so we can see the seams a little better. I'm going to weld these together. Okay. Looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and straighten these pieces out. And I believe these, I think we're going to delete those polygons. Let's do a quick peel on these pieces just to straighten them out a little bit. And one thing we're also going to want to do before we lay out our final UVs is these inner pieces are not going to be very visible to the camera. So we're probably going to want to isolate all of our wrapping pieces and then just isolate the set of UVs that belong on the inside here and kind of pull them off to the side. That way we're not dedicating a ton of texture space to these pieces. That'll make a little more sense when we get to that point. So I'm going to go ahead and convert this to an editable poly. And I'm going to delete this polygon and this polygon. And I'm also going to reset X forms on this. We should have done that from the beginning. Let's convert that to an editable poly and let's check for backface calling. That piece looks pretty good. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the next piece. So we got these here. Select it, please. Okay. And let's start by resetting its X forms. And then checking for inverted normals. And that piece was inverted. So let's go ahead and flip it. Okay, and we'll go ahead and delete the polygons we won't be seeing. So let's delete that one and that one. And let's see, let's go into unwrap mode now, or modifier, unwrap mode. And select all these faces, do a flatten mapping. Okay. Weld some of these up. Looks like we got most of them. Okay. An element mode here. Straighten selection. And let's go ahead and quick peel these. Okay. And that piece is done. Actually, we should probably do a rescale elements. Make sure everything is 1 to 1. Looks good. And let's convert to editable poly. Okay. And we got this piece back here. And isolate it. Delete these polygons. And reset X forms. Convert to editable poly. And turn back face calling on. And we had an issue with that one, so let's go ahead and flip its normals. And let's throw an unwrap modifier on here. Select all the polygons here, flat map. That one played pretty nice. We just have to straighten selection these. And just do a quick peel on these. And we could probably get away with probably straightening this out. But since we're keeping all these pieces kind of a little more organic, we'll just kind of leave it like that. Just so there's more consistency, because if we straighten this piece out, when we rip our normal map, we might get a little cleaner bake, but the rest of the pieces won't. They'll look kind of out of place because this one looks cleaner than the others. So we'll just leave it the way it is. Okay, so that addresses those pieces we forgot. So let's go ahead and convert to edible poly. Okay. Now what we want to do is we want to hide the blade or the sword up here, katana. Just go ahead and select it all and hide selection. So that just leaves us with this piece. Next thing we want to do is hide these because we're not quite ready to address those yet. So I'm going to go into my material editor, and this is our mirrored UVs material. I'm going to right click on it and say select by material. That's going to grab all the pieces that are assigned to that material. So I'll hit select and then just go ahead and hide selection. Okay, so now we have everything together that we want to collapse on. So let's go ahead and select everything here, go up to the utilities tab, and let's uncheck reset Xforms and click collapse. Collapse selected. Okay, so that converts it to, see, it converts it to an edible mesh. We want it to be an edible poly. So let's go ahead and convert to edible poly. Now let's go ahead and just throw an unwrap modifier on here. You can see all of our UVs are stacked all over each other. So we're going to go through and just kind of organize this, similar to how we did the blade and handle. So I'm going to go here into face mode. And I like to work out of face mode when I'm doing this, just because I can see selections better. You could work out of vertex or edge, but just to demonstrate here, let's go ahead and go into element mode here. And you can see we've got overlapping UVs over this piece, but because we have a face selection, it's much easier to see our selection there. If I went into vertex mode and let's see, go ahead and select that, you can see it's a lot harder to distinguish that piece from our overlapping pieces. So let's go ahead and just keep it on face mode, grab that and pack together. And one thing I want to check here, I don't think we did that. Yeah, so before we get too far ahead of ourselves, we need to rescale our elements. You can see how our checkerboard pattern isn't consistent along here. So to fix that, just like we did with these other pieces when we were unwrapping it, we're just going to do rescale elements and make sure that rescale box is checked, and just click that once. And now we have a one-to-one UV layout. So our texture resolution's one-to-one along these pieces. So let's go ahead, and we've got this piece kind of out of the way. Move on to this piece next. Let's go ahead and uncheck rescale. That's important, and then we're just going to pack this together. We'll move it down here. Okay, and we'll start doing that for the rest of these pieces. So I might just grab all these pieces in here. Let's do just a pack together, sorry. Move those off to the side here. Let's grab, I think we just grab all these actually. Maybe not that one. And just do a pack together. Okay. And let's grab this one here. Do a pack together. What are we left with here? These pieces on the side. So we can grab those together and do a pack together. I'm full of puns. Okay. And then what do we got here? We got this piece here. Pack that together. Pull it up. Okay, and like I mentioned before, we've got these interfaces of our ribbon. And I think maybe we should have done this slightly different. So let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and Go ahead and close this. I'm going to collapse our UV modifier onto our edit poly. So you can do that. You can either convert to editable poly like we typically do, like this, or you can go to the top of your modifier here and say collapse to, and it's going to clap that modifier down on our edit poly. And so what I'd like to do now is go into element mode. Let's go ahead to wireframe here. I want to grab all the ribbon pieces and just detach them. Okay. And the reason we're doing this is it's just going to make it a lot easier to select those faces rather than having to work with this large mesh and then looking, between these to select those faces. So we'll just go ahead and do it this way, and you can see now it's a little easier to select those faces. So let's go ahead and go in edge mode here. I'm going to go ahead and just select the inner edges to build a selection. I'm going to grab just one of these edges, which will allow us to do like a ring selection, so we can very quickly grab these polygon faces. So if we go click ring now, and then convert that ring selection into a face selection, you can see now we're just left with the inner polygons. Looks like we missed those actually. So let's go back into edge mode and make sure we grab those. Convert to faces. Okay, so we got all those faces. I'm going to go ahead and with that selection applied, I'm going to throw an unwrap modifier on. And what it's going to do is it's going to grab all the UVs that correspond to those polygons, and the rest of this is not going to be included in our unwrap modifier. So I'll go ahead and show you how that works. So when we open up our UV editor now, these polygons that aren't selected are not included in the unwrap modifier. So that allows us to grab these now and just kind of pull them somewhere off to the side so we know that they're their own group. Maybe pull them down here just so we don't have any overlap with any pieces. And let's go ahead and collapse that down, just say collapse to. Okay, and now let's go back into this piece, select our large mesh with all of our pieces combined, and we're just gonna click attach here and attach those back on. Okay, and let's go back to unwrapping now, and we should have our pieces down here. Moved them quite a ways down there. I'll just go ahead and kind of stick them over here. It might be better also to uncheck, rescale, and pack together, and just put these over here. Okay, so I think the next thing I want to do is kind of group these based on their shape. So we've got a lot of rectangle shapes that would be nice to kind of have together. So I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm in move select sub object mode. And the reason for that is I'll just demonstrate here. If I'm in freeform mode and I select this piece right here, make sure we're in element, you can see how it adds like a boundary box, and it's just really kind of tough to grab this next piece below here. So working out of freeform mode, or not sorry, freeform mode, but move select sub object allows me to easily grab this next piece below here. I'm going to go ahead and just grab all these pieces that are rectangular in shape. That looks like a piece we missed somehow. Maybe even that one right there too. Let's go ahead and just grab all that. I think I'll leave these ones out. Maybe I'll just leave those ones out. And pack those together. Make sure we're in Interesting. I packed together, I would imagine that it would keep my selection, but it's not. That's easy to fix. Let's move these guys out a little of the way. We have this piece right here we can move. Alright. Alright, and we had these pieces below here as well. Let's go ahead and address these pieces right here. Let's see where they correspond. You can see that's part of that piece there. So I'm going to go ahead and straighten the selection on this piece. And let's see, that's the bottom part of that piece. Not sure how that got missed. Make sure that these, they're not quite lining up. So let's go ahead and use our vertical alignment on these. I'll grab, so we're out of element mode. And let's just go ahead and align vertically. That. And just pull that off. Okay. Now let's grab all these pieces here that make up our wrap and pack those together. Okay, got those pieces there. Let's grab this again. We're just trying to kind of get organized here to see how we want to lay everything out. We kind of have all of our shapes kind of distinguished now. We've got over here, we've got all of our wrapping pieces that are, you know, kind of tough to fit into spots. So we're going to kind of leave those off to the side right now. And then these pieces that are more rectangular, which will play nice. So at this point, put this over here and maybe put this guy up here. Kind of want to scale everything down, with the exception of maybe these pieces over here, because we're just going to scale those down to just a very small resolution. But right now we want to set the scale, the final scale of our shells. So I'm going to grab everything here, move it up a little bit, and I'm going to work out a freeform mode. Gives me a nice boundary box to kind of easily manipulate. I'm going to scale everything down. And I think I might keep these a little bit, maybe come to about 80% on this piece. So it's 80% of the square here. About like that. Got to move these pieces down. And let's grab these. And because these pieces are not important, right? They're just the inner pieces. They're just going to have like some ambient occlusion and a little bit of the diffuse color on them. I'm going to go ahead and just grab them and straighten selection on those. So let's go through and do every piece like that, because we're not concerned about distortion on these. And they'll fit a little bit better into our layout. It's kind of interesting how this straightened selection, even though these are the same width, you would think that it would keep the width at least. It doesn't. Let's go ahead and pack those together as well. And move them off to the side. Alright, so might want to scale down just a little bit more. And we're just trying to think about how we're going to fit all these pieces in. So I'm thinking leaving a little bit of room over here will leave room for some of these pieces that are going to be tough to fit in. And then we have a lot of these thicker rectangular long strips that we need to think about as well too. So let's go ahead and try working with this layout. And if we do find that we don't have enough room, we can always rescale everything down again. So start here. I'll just go ahead and work out a freeform mode here. Sorry, not freeform, but sub-object. Move selected sub-object mode. And just kind of get these close to the edge as we can. Keep that gapping we got there. Okay. And let's see. Start grabbing some of these larger pieces and trying to work them in. Like we might get at least one there. And hopefully this video doesn't go too long. The unwrapping usually takes quite a bit of time, just because it's very technical. We can move this one up. Actually, maybe we move all this up like so, and that might leave a little gap there for a piece. Let's move this up as well. Okay, and you can see already we're kind of crunching down on space here, and we have quite a bit more pieces to fit in here. So I think we need to scale down just a bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and go into freeform mode here and just scale it down a little bit more. All right. Leaves a little room. That piece. Maybe we call that good right there. And I'm going to grab this again and just scale it up a little bit so that that piece now kind of meets that edge. And let's continue on. And I still think we might need to shrink this down some more. Yeah, I think we're going to have to shrink it down. Let's get these pieces in and then adjust. I'm also using a new screen capturing. I'm using OBS, which seems to have better results with the audio because I was having issues with the mouth breathing and just all it's like an ASMR Twitch stream. It wasn't very pleasant to listen to. So hopefully this will be a little better. We fit that in there. A little too long. So let's go ahead and let's grab everything again and just scale it down. I think here. Let's just scale it down about like that. Does that leave a little room right there? There's a little room right there. Okay. Now what I think I want to do, start to try to get some of these pieces in. Start with these pieces right here. Looks like those might go right in there. And can we get this one in here? Like we can. And we could probably try to compress these down a little bit, just so we can make room for some other pieces that might be small enough to fit in those gaps. Okay. And let's see here. Let's start trying to arrange these. So we got a nice edge right here. That's kind of a nice little plus of having it, because now I can align it against that edge and it kind of keep a gap going. I'll maybe move this one up here. This is more like a jigsaw puzzle now. I'm going to piece everything in here. See if we rotate it like that. Yeah, maybe just stick it right there, because we kind of have this curvature going up. Let's see here, maybe I can grab this piece. That might work best there. Yeah, these pieces are usually, they always pose very challenging way. Like, it just makes it very tough to kind of organize in your layout, because they just don't want to fit anywhere. So you just kind of have to make the best of it. See if I can rotate maybe that way. That down to about here. Let's go ahead and open up our text tools. And I have to adjust my camera angle again. Grab this edge right here, make sure we're at element mode, and just go ahead and hit align. Okay. Let's move this down a little bit. Okay. Take a look at what we have left. So we have these pieces up here. Okay. See if we can maybe rotate this, fit in here somehow. And like I was saying before with the stair stepping, we're going to get a little bit on our wrapping just because we can't prevent it. So we're going to see a little bit of that. It's not going to be as bad as we see it here, just because we're working at a higher resolution. But if you're working, you know, at maybe like 2K or 1K, that would be very apparent. See if we can maybe have one more of these longer strips, rotate it. Have it nestle kind of, it's that piece. I'm leaving a bit of a gap there. If we can position that piece right there. Rotate this. It's one of those pieces that's not being nice. Maybe we can get some of these pieces in here. That piece isn't going to fit there, but it might fit in like that. Try rotating this a bit. See where we can find a better fit for that. That over there for right now. So maybe for this piece, let's try to straighten this out a little bit. I don't know if that's really going to help us though. Maybe we just need to, yeah, maybe if we do that. Not the best, but we'll make it work. We got this piece here. See if we can maybe move. I think I liked it better like that. Hmm. There's got to be just one piece that doesn't fit quite right. See if we go into peel mode. Ooh, undo that. I didn't like that. I'm going to go ahead and just by hand kind of move this into place so it works a little better for us. So just kind of manipulate these around a little bit. Go ahead and check that piece, see what kind of, if that introduced any distortion on it. It's the top piece right there. Let's go ahead and put our checkerboard on it. And it's a pretty small checkerboard pattern, so let's go ahead and map our UV checker on there. And that looks fine. I'm not really even seeing any of that distortion, removing it a little bit. All right. So now we've got these pieces, and then we also have these pieces we have to work into the equation. So start getting these pieces in. Looks like we could probably move this down. Not sure why there was a gap there. Still quite a bit of pieces. But having them as long, thin strips like that, you'd be amazed how you can fit those pieces in. Could be wrong though. We might have to rescale again. We got this big chunk here. Trying to get kind of the bigger pieces out of the way. Not really big pieces, but smaller chunks. We could probably fit this somewhere, maybe like over here. And put this maybe down here. Okay. All right, I'm gonna grab all this again and make sure we're in face mode. The only reason why I don't like working on an edge is it highlights all the edges that it can weld those pieces together. Actually, I think it's because I've got this auto pin on. Let me double check. Not sure why it's doing that. Let's go ahead and, I think it was when I turned on peel mode, it kind of bugged out a little bit. So we can fix that by just closing our UV editor here. And let's just collapse this down to our editable poly and then throw back our unwrap modifier on there. Okay. Let's go back into face mode. It's still doing that. Sure why it's doing that. Don't want auto pin on. Well, we can work with it. It's not really going to be, it's a little bit distracting, but shouldn't affect our working here. Let's do pack together. Make sure rescale elements is off. That's checked on by default. So anytime you open up the UV editor or close it down and open up again, it's going to check that back on. So just make sure it's checked off for packing these pieces. And let's go ahead and move these up here. And now let's start moving some of these pieces in. Sure we're in element mode. So we have a little room right here that we can, or is it just these pieces that are a little off? Like these are a little off, so we can move to about there. And I'm holding shift and left clicking just to constrain my movement horizontally. Okay. See if we can pack these down a little bit more. Okay. I might leave a little room up top there to fit this piece. Yeah, just a bit of a gap. And we might be able to pull everything here to the left a little bit. And also maybe grab this, pull it down to there. Give a little room up here. Okay. Still quite a bit of pieces. Get some of these longer pieces in here. Gonna fit in there. A little tight right there. Bring that down, maybe on this level. Let's go ahead and pack these together again, just so it's easier to kind of grab them, bring them up. Yeah, that's a problem. Freeform mode, I'll be able to grab it that way. I don't know why they decided to make that work so it just sticks it right where you're doing all your organizing. Great idea, you know? Leave it to Autodesk to screw things up. I say that really about any software. Always some problem with it that kind of interrupts the workflow. And this is getting pretty tight. And actually, I think we can maybe, yeah, and maybe we'll move it in like that. Take this piece, and we have this part down here where we can move stuff in. We can just stick that maybe right here. Let's keep plugging away here. Peace. Like there's more of these just like duplicating as I move one. So another thing you could do too is, if we take a look at this, you could make like the ribbons one texture set and this piece one texture set, and that way it won't be as time consuming trying to go through and fit all these pieces together. However, if you were developing this for a game engine or a game asset, you would typically want all these pieces together. You want to keep your texture resolution as dedicate less textures to these assets. It's a little bit better optimized for your game. So this is the preferred method. If you're doing it for film, you can really just kind of go crazy with how many textures you want. Oh, I want to rotate that piece. We can get some going on this row up here. Then move these guys down here so I don't have to keep scrolling out every time I want to grab a piece. Getting a little crammed in here now. Might have to put some of these pieces elsewhere a little bit here. We'll see. Okay. Yeah. I'm running out of room. I'm just going to put these pieces like that. See if we can fill that hole. And then my idea is maybe we'll like make a break right there and then find a spot for those, the other side. And because we're using Substance Painter, having seams kind of randomly placed on the mesh isn't too concerning. You really want to cut down on the amount of seams, but sometimes you just can't. You know, just like in a scenario like this where we want to fit, you know, these UVs in, make the most of our resolution. Putting a seam in there is not a bad idea. Oh. And man, we still got quite a bit of these. That space right there is really not very big, so a little space in here, a little space right there. Moving the pivot right there. Don't want to do that. So we can move these over like so. Move these over. Yeah, it leaves a little room in here. Move that piece right there. Grab that. Move it down here. Go ahead and grab this. Pack these together. Shit. Sorry, I meant to do pack together. We could probably get 2 right there. Even 2 right here. Move these down a little bit. Probably fit something below here as well. And rotate that. There we go. Got this longer piece right here. That'll fit right there. Let's see if we can maybe even get some of these to fit without having to make a seam. And that'll fit right there. That out a little bit. Move this in, this up. That will allow us to actually maybe even add a second piece. You could actually probably pull these down and pull this down. Let's see if we can grab another of these pieces here. Bit like that. Okay. Hopefully this video is not going too long. I think we'll just have to cut these pieces now. So I'll go into face mode here, make a break, make sure we're at element mode. Make a break right there. Move that piece up in there. Break here, pull that one to the side. Probably put this one right here. This one's kind of extending too far, so I'm going to go back into element mode here. I'll pull that to the right a little bit, pull this one back this way. And let's double check that we've got good spacing. It's still good there. Okay. This one's not quite in. Pull that in a little bit. And grab this one, pull it in a little bit. Double check our spacing on that side. It's alright. We'll grab, we'll probably want to, we can make a break right there. Break right here. And one right here. We have these pieces we've got to deal with. This one will go up in here. Okay, we can fit some of these. Oops. We fit that right in there. So. So the pieces we're left with now, got all of our important pieces in. We're working on an element there. We're left with these pieces over here. And these are the non-important pieces, so I'm going to scale them down. Something about like that. Yep, just a little bit. And just start kind of scattering them in. Maybe even stick this one here. Probably stick this one here. Move this up a little bit. All right, we're getting there. Rotate this one on that side, put it here. I might just scale that one down, stick it here. Scale all these down a little bit. Okay. Those could probably just fit right there. Maybe just rotate that one on its side. And there we go. So we've got our pieces laid out for the sheath. Now we just want to kind of look it over. Excuse me. And look for any type of overlap. Scroll on a little bit. The screen capturing adds a little bit of screen tearing as I'm scrolling back and forth, unfortunately. Oh. Alright, not seeing any red flags. We should also scroll back here, make sure there's no UVs out here. Looks good. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and close that and collapse that down on our mesh. And so next we just have to mirror these UVs over and move them up in V like we've done with the other pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and take a break here and then we'll come back and do that. Alright, let's continue on here. So what we need to do next is extract these pieces out to their proper names. So we'll start here from the front and then work our way back. So let's go ahead and do our little trick here. Let's unhide the high poly. Grab the name of this piece and hide that back and then unhide the low. And now let's grab this piece right here, detach it, and make sure we're not detaching as a clone. And just replace high with low. And so we've already kind of gone through how to do this. So I'm just going to go ahead and do it. And I'm going to speed up the video so you don't have to sit through this and watch me rename every piece. So I'll go ahead and do that right now. All right, so we've got all of our pieces now separated and renamed correctly. So next thing we want to do is unhide our mirrored sides. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go ahead and start by unhiding everything. And let's hide our Katana ref and high. And that should just leave us with that our mirrored geometry, reference geometry. I'm going to hide this too as well. And let's start with some of the easier pieces here. So I'm going to go ahead. We know that these can just be mirrored over and they don't need to be merged together like the top ones here. So let's address those first. Let's see here. So let's go ahead and let's affect our pivot only, center to object, and zero this on X. All right, 0 on X there. And let's go ahead and mirror that across. Make sure it's a copy. And let's go ahead and remove the reference, which I should have done from the first place. Okay. And now what we need to do is let's reset its X forms. Over to editable poly. And let's check for backface culling. And you can see that we have inverted normals, so let's go ahead and flip those. And now we need to throw an unwrap modifier on here and adjust the UV. So we'll select everything here, absolute relative type-ins, and move it up 1 unit in V. And something really odd right there just happened, so I'm going to close that. Throw an unwrap modifier back on that. Let's try that again. There we go. Might have hit a hotkey. I think I hit the quick planar hotkey, so I didn't really want that to get messed up. I didn't want to mess with our UVs, so I just removed that unwrap modifier and just reapplied it. So that should be good. I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's go ahead and convert to editable poly now. And I'm going to grab the geometry on this side and just go ahead and attach it here. Like so. And I think our high poly mesh, we had renamed this its own distinct piece. But what's going to happen is when it bakes the normal map out, it's just going to basically bake the information on this side and mirror it over. So we don't need to really worry about this geometry. And we might actually end up just going back into the high poly mesh and just deleting this side so we don't get any errors from our normal map bake. So let's go ahead and do this next piece here. And make sure you're out of attach mode. Just click that one more time. And I'm going to start by isolating this so it's a little easier. Isolate. I'm going to delete this side. And affect pivot only, center object, and zero it on X. And mirror it across as a copy. Then we're going to reset X forms on it. Convert to editable poly. And turn on backface culling. And that should just be, it's going to most likely flip our polygons for most of these pieces just because the mirroring operation typically does that. So now let's go into unwrap and move this up 1 unit in V. Like so. That's good. Convert this to editable poly. Grab our correctly named piece over here and attach it there. Jump out of isolation mode. And let's see what other pieces. We got this piece over here we can deal with. So I'm going to go ahead and isolate these two pieces. Delete this reference material or reference object we don't need anymore. Back pivot only, center to object, and 0 on X. Mirror it across. Reset our X forms, convert it to edible poly. And we know that this is going to invert our normals, but just to show it for clarity, I'll just turn that back on. And let's just go ahead and flip it. And let's grab the unwrap modifier and move everything up in V1 unit. Okay, and we're just going to attach this piece here to that. Okay, and that takes care of those pieces. So now we're left with these ribbon pieces, and for those we need to mirror them across. So we'll start by going with this. We'll start with this piece and isolate it. Let's delete this side. And then let's go ahead and center its pivot. So we know that when we built this geometry, all these vertices were on 0x. So when we center our pivot now, it should mirror across properly. So we'll go ahead and just center, and let me double check that I centered on 0. Looks like we're on 0. So now we'll just do a mirroring operation as a copy, and we'll do the same thing. We'll convert, actually let's reset the X forms first. Convert to edible poly. Make sure we convert to edible poly, not a deformable poly, G poly. And let's go ahead and flip our faces. Okay. And then throw an unwrap modifier on here. Grab all these faces, move them up 1 unit. Okay. Then we'll convert that to an edible poly. Attach, select this side with the correct name and attach to this piece. And now with this one, we want to weld right in the middle here. We'll just go ahead and weld. And let's just double check that those welded like they did. Right, so we're good with that. Move on to the next piece. Delete this side. Reset our pivot. Mirror it across. Reset X forms. Convert to edible poly. Turn on back face culling. And flip. Okay. Grab this side. Attach it here. And oops, got a little ahead of ourselves here. That's not too concerning. So this is still its own element. So I'm going to select it at its element level, right? So just a separate piece over here. And then I'm going to go to unwrap. Just basically like we did before where we did that on the wrap. We're just selecting these faces to be unwrapped. And so now I can just easily position them in V. And there again, something I'm hitting there is causing that not to work. Oh, and some hotkey there. Go ahead and kill that unwrap and reapply it. Select all these edges, faces, move them up in V, and convert to edible poly, and then just weld right down the middle here. There we go. That piece is finished. Let's go ahead and move on to the next. And this is pretty repetitive, so I'll go ahead and just speed up the rest of these. But the same principles apply for connecting this geometry together. All right, so that's going to do it. We've got all these pieces now mirrored over properly. So one thing we need to do is we need to set up our smooth groups so that our normal map bakes on properly. So what I'll go ahead and do is kind of look this over, see if we missed anything real quick. I think we're good. And autosave going on there. I'm going to go ahead and grab everything here. And I think we could actually probably just grab everything like this and then run our smooth groups from UV shells. And hopefully it doesn't, yeah, that's not responding very well. Go ahead and save my scene real quick, just make sure that we don't lose any of this progress. All right. Let's come down here to the front end and just do these individually. So tools, smooth groups from UV shells. Okay. And convert that to an editable poly. Move to our next piece. To editable poly. And we'll just kind of start from here, go down. And then go from left to right for these pieces. It would be nice if you could just select it all and just have that apply. Save us a little bit of time, but at least this way though, we're knowing that we're selecting each individual object and the smooth groups are applying properly. So 1+. Okay. Go ahead and do these pieces right here before we forget about them. Okay. And this one's a unique piece as well. Go back onto this side. And not sure if we got these three, so I'll just go ahead and redo it. It's alright. If you do it more than once, it's not gonna be the end of the world. Okay, and that just leaves this cap right here. All right, so we've got this piece completed now, and now we're ready to get this scene set up so we can export into Substance Painter and start doing some texture work. So we'll do all that in the next video.